Welcome to another episode of Mutual Growth, a podcast by Penn Community Bank. I'm your host, Aaron Clark. After the show is over, be sure to check out the show notes and links to resources at penncommunitybank.com/podcast.
Let's begin with the beginning. Can you provide some background? Tell us about yourself and how you got started being a co-founder of a growing startup.
Okay, great. First of all, thank you so much, Aaron, for taking the time to speak with me about Naturaz. So it's great to be here with you and with Penn Community Bank. But in terms of my background, I am originally from Kenya, East Africa. So that's where my existence on this earth began. and I grew up in a fairly academic household and neighborhood. So my dad was a university professor, in the areas of philosophy, metaphysics, the humanities. He was just that type of guy, and also quite musical as well. Lots of musical instruments that he played. And then my mom was a high school teacher, but she taught all the way from elementary to high school, but her actual training was mainly focused on high school students, and her background was in the sciences, so biology, chemistry, setting curriculum. So that's the sort of home I grew up in. So with a very healthy respect for education, a curiosity about the world that we lived in, and just fast forwarding, I wound up in college here in the United States. My dad was quite well traveled. He had actually studied in the US as well as Canada as part of his background. So, jumping into this new experience wasn't something very new for the family. It was something familiar. And I actually joined my sister, who was also in college. So in college, I decided to pursue science for some interesting reason. I ended up doing chemistry as in my undergraduate, and also was really thinking about diving into, the world of health and, questioning whether should I go the pre-med route, what route do I go? My advisors shared with me and said, hey, why don't you, there's a really interesting course that we offer, and I think you'd be a really good candidate for it. It's nuclear medicine technology. And so I got some advice from, folks, is this a good course? Is this something I should do? Should I kill myself any further than what I'm doing in chemistry? And I decided to just kind of go for it because it put me squarely into the medical world, into the health world. And I would be able to really see at a clinical level what it takes to take further studies, to pursue, a degree in that space. So in whatever I would have decided to do, whether it was medicine or research and so on. So when I graduated with my undergrad in chemistry and a focus and concentration in nuclear medicine technology, for some interesting reason, one of the first really fun opportunities that opened up for me was to work in big trauma one centers within the nuclear medicine clinics, where we had a nuclear medicine lab. We would be working with nuclear materials. These materials were like nuclides like technetium-99, and these were chelated, like a way of joining them to substances that could go and accumulate in specific parts of the body. And that really helped with diagnostics, looking at physiology of the human being. So that's what I did for a period of time in Massachusetts, parts in Kansas, and also in Georgia. And at the time that I was doing that, I was so fascinated by not only the science, but the technology. We would prepare these doses in labs and then inject them in folks who would come to the clinics. And then we had these huge detectors that these folks would lay on a table, almost like you're doing a CAT scan. But this is very different because it's looking at the physiology and how your blood, where it's traveling to and what it's doing. For example, if one had prostate cancer and had bone metastases to the bones, right? What we would be looking for is where is there a percolation or where is blood pooling? And the nuclear material would help us see all the areas that this blood would be pooling to see how far it has traveled in the body. And so it really helped doctors with diagnosis, brain death studies, really looking at gastric emptying, looking at bleeds. It was very interesting, but the technology was so fascinating to me, to the point where sometimes, we would do these studies and slice through someone's heart or slice through some part of their body, but on a computer. And so I became very interested in the technology piece and decided that instead of going down the other route of medicine, I wanted to go into technology and combine that with science and see what happens, in terms of research. So wound up at Carnegie Mellon University and studied in information systems, actually. And we, and following that experience, which was a very interesting experience, really tough as well, really challenging, but really eye-opening. I wound up, one of the jobs that opened up for me was at a major pharmaceutical company, and at the time, GlaxoSmithKline, and I decided to pursue a part of my career there. What I did there is I worked within the research and development organization with IT, information technology. And what we were doing is we would work across the entire drug discovery pipeline, from discovery medicine to preclinical to clinical to FDA submission, really understanding the science behind it and the underlying business process and all the underlying systems that needed to make all this science work. So you had to have a really good understanding of the science and the clinicals, and also a good understanding of technology. So that was a very interesting experience that really broadened my mind. What happened is, while I was at GSK, I kept thinking about a problem that I was trying to solve in grad school. A class I had taken, on entrepreneurship, which is interesting. I have no idea why I picked that class, but I did. And that I really, really enjoyed, and was taught by a professor who I think he had worked on ATM machines and the software that goes behind them, and had sold the company. It was very successful. And so he was really trying to walk us through what it takes to build a company. At the time, it wasn't something I had thought I would do, but he challenged us to create a company. And one of the things, and he said, think of a problem you want to solve. And I thought of, oh my gosh, this hair thing has always been an issue. I can find the right products for me. I know so many women who struggle with this same thing. I know a lot of people who have put in perms in their hair and their hair has dropped off, and some of the parts that it's dropped off, the hair doesn't grow back. And then as I worked even in the pharmaceutical industry and encountering women, and more so women who were getting closer to middle age or even in late 30s, if they had used certain grooming methods very frequently, like frequent high heat, frequent braiding, just to deal with especially curly hair can be hard to manage on a day-to-day basis, or using chemical relaxers. A lot of these women, as hormones change and as hair, what happens is sometimes with the hormones changing, it can cause some level of hair loss. And so if already there's damage as you grow older, it's a lot more noticeable. So I started thinking, this is a real issue in the community. There seems to be a gap. There don't seem to be products that are helping women. What is really affecting these women? And it struck me that the root cause of, that drove a lot of women and even girls into harsher, hair grooming practices was just that the hair, if they had curly hair, it was so dry, it was hard to comb, it was hard to detangle. And so they had to find ways of being able to get up in the morning and get going with work or with school faster. And so the root cause was this lack of moisture. That's what, when I researched, I found a lack of moisture appears to make curly hair really dry. Our cuticles tend to stand out. So I have curly hair, and so I was also studying myself. So that the hair kind of locks together, and then the curls are moving in all directions. And so you think about intertwining, so they intertwine. And so I was thinking we need to figure out a way to moisturize the hair. The oils don't travel to the ends of the hair as readily as if one has straight hair. So I started focusing on a system or a moisture system that would really make it much easier for the hair to hold moisture and to sustain it, that would deliver moisture to the hair and then enable the hair to hold that moisture for longer. So that was the goal. The other goal for me was hair is a keratin, which is a protein. Our nails are also made out of keratins, just maybe, the way they combine is different. And what happens is that sometimes when we comb our hair, gets exposed to the elements, you lose some of that protein in the hair. And so I wanted to find more natural and easy ways of infusing or delivering proteins to the hair that would help strengthen it, repair it, add shine, improve texture. So I was really thinking of those sort of things when working on this product line. The other thing that bothered me a lot was I felt that so many cosmetics in the marketplace contain certain ingredients that might not be healthy for us. So there are so many articles right now. It's quite a bit of research that's being done in this space. For example, there are studies that have been done, for example, at Boston University, at Rutgers University, and others that have shown a correlation between the use of chemical relaxers that straighten the hair and the growth of uterine fibroids. And it all depends on the frequency, but they have shown a correlation where they've done studies on a lot of women, big numbers of women, and followed them for a number of years and really looked at the frequency with which they permed their hair, put these chemicals in their hair, and what happened later on in their lives in terms of their health outcomes. So they have found interesting correlations with that. They've also looked at where there are effects on pregnant mothers as well. So I felt that I want to create something that would make a difference even for consumers, that a consumer who encounters our products or what this formula is doesn't ever have to think of, is this safe for me? That this already has been thought about for them. So that's really how I came about to developing Naturaz. It was my own journey with my own hair, having to detangle it for so many hours, finding products in the marketplace and hours that I didn't have, right? Finding products in the marketplace that weren't working for me and for so many other women, and just wanting to address a gap that's here now. And later on, as I talk about what's really happening, you have a question on the marketplace, what's happening in the environment. I'll share a little bit more about how much there's a need for what I'm doing.
Yeah, so can you just talk to us about the products, and you touched on kind of who the audience is, but how are they served and kind of what's been the response, right? You take this project of passion, of personal interest, and begin to grow it. What was the feedback initially, and where are you at now?
Right. So in terms of this, and even before I get to the feedback, what happened is I shared that I was working at the time in the pharmaceutical industry when all this was really churning through my mind, and I was thinking I need to do something. And years into my experience there, and much needed experience, because I felt that it was really great for me to be in an environment where I was exposed to, science, to research and development, to that whole process, and the rigor of it all, right? And then also to business process as well. I thought, if I'm going to bring this to life, I know how expensive it is to bring a drug product to market. Like, it's so expensive. This is not the same as a drug product, but then I understood that it would take a lot for me to get Naturaz off the ground. And so I spent time saving while I was doing my research in this space and trying to figure out how do we actually, how do we as an industry even get to solve the problem I was trying to solve? So, make a long story short, I was able to start working on some initial formulas very slowly, looking at ingredients, natural and organic ingredients. How would I synthesize them so that they would infuse and sustain moisture for longer? And then started testing them out in the marketplace. So I would sometimes, know that on a Saturday, Sunday, there was some event going on where there were women who were looking for hair products. And I would go out to those events with my formulas. And sometimes I would recruit my husband, like, hey, you've told me that you've seen women struggle and you've seen even people in your family that have struggled. And he also has quite a passion for this and to see a difference in the marketplace where people are being served and where people don't feel so desperate about the condition of their hair. And so sometimes, I would ask him to join me, and what we were doing is starting to test out, does this formula as it is work? What will people say? What if we price it this way? What is the voice of the customer? What does that inform in terms of if we put anything on the label? And even a little before that, you always start with friends and family, right? My mom was one of my biggest supporters at the beginning. And, one time, she shared with me that she had been putting some relaxer and she had a little bit of area where there was hair loss. And I said, hey, I'm trying out this new formula. Try it out. Let me know what you think. And I think I forgot about it. And a couple months later, she says, you know what, Mommy, my hair is growing back and it's so soft and I don't know what you've put in here, but it really is great. So that sort of feedback first encourages you. Of course, it's my mom, and my mom will always be supportive, unless it's something like so terrible, right? And then she'll find a nice way of saying something to me. But she has seen how healthy her hair has been over the years, to the point that people stop her and ask her, what do you do? A woman of your age usually doesn't have this, amount of hair, this volume of hair on her head, in the health that I see. So we would go out into the marketplace, collect feedback. Now, what started happening is, people started coming back and saying, you know what, this is the first time that my child isn't crying as I comb through her hair. This is the first time that a comb went through my hair from the base and I was able to bring it out to the roots. My hair is so soft. It's staying soft and moisturized for days. My hair is growing back. That was very interesting because I wasn't really thinking of growth. I was really thinking of management when I started. But of course, when you have nourishing ingredients and moisture, it all works together, right? And so that's what customers started coming back to share. Others said, you need to sell to more people. More people need to know about this brand. And so I just thought, you know what, maybe just let's keep building on this because of the feedback that we are getting. Then what happened is around 2018, we launched, we had done several tests, by that time. We had really worked on trying to validate some initial formulas, getting feedback from the marketplace on what to improve, because natural formulas are a little trickier to work with. They sometimes, like when you think of a homogeneous solution, like where oil and water, everything is mixed very well, there's a nice suspension. Sometimes with natural formulas, it's very tough to get them to behave the way a more synthetic formula would. So getting that feedback, oh, this one separated, but when I did this and I did that, it worked well. Or I don't like that scent, can you guys do this? Or what did you use to fragrance this? Oh, we used bergamot, but I had some reaction to it. And so you research that and you find out that, bergamot does cause more allergies. So as much as we love some of what it does for the product, we have to pull it out. So we were going through iteration after iteration, trying to just improve this so that it's ready for the marketplace. And in 2018, we really launched more broadly online, again, to keep studying, okay, what are people willing to pay? Are they coming back? What are they saying? So we've collected all this information from people over a period of time. And then we were also formulating 2 styling products at the time. So we were using that also as market research. Based on that, we were able to start studying how often are people coming back and how long do they stay with the brand. So the lifetime value and collecting all sorts of other data was what we were able to do. So in terms of the feedback from the customer, what we determined is, you know what, we have a moisture system. And so if you went to our website at naturaz.com, you'll find 2 kits that we have curated for women. So not only do we have a 5-product line, we have curated them into 2 kits. One kit is for women with wavy and loose curls, and the other is for women with tight curls and coils, and girls. And both of these kits help us address the needs of women with textured hair across all ethnicities. Yeah.
So you're constantly in this state of evolution, working on the product, expanding, testing, taking that feedback. You know, you mentioned kind of the iterations of it. 2021 comes around, you get tied in with Startup Bucks. You're one of the first businesses to be, you know, funded and supported through the Bucks Built Fund, which is obviously, as listeners will know, kind of the partnership with the County of Bucks, and Startup Bucks was just a great nonprofit. The bank has supported in the past. Can you talk to us about what that was like, right? To kind of go through, hey, you've done the due diligence, you've done your work, and now it's almost a little Shark Tank experience where you're competing against other businesses to really put the company out there as a viable, investable, and scalable business. What was that like?
You know what, you've actually pointed out some very key things, and especially the one that stands out is scalable, because anyone you go to that you're looking for, you're looking to fund you is asking, how scalable are you? And so one thing that I would say even to folks who read this or view some of what we're talking about is, when you're a new brand and you're looking to grow, there are so many dots like that need to be connected, but they're not linear. It's not that predictable what one conversation or one connection or one thing that you do. It's not super predictable how all that might come together to really get you to where you're trying to go. And so the reason I'm saying this is because when we started our fundraising journey, it was around the same time that we had done all this work, collecting data and doing the research, and then launching online and still working on the 2 other formulas and testing all that. But it was around that same time that we decided to go out and look for money, because even though one wants to start a business, it's very tough to go to a bank and say, hey, I want to start a business. How about you just loan me 50 grand to do this? A lot of banks will not do that because it's high risk. So, I had to save money, and I had to get my husband on board that this is something I really want to do. I think it's going to make a difference. Are you supportive of it? Because the impact is not only on me, it's on our family. And so when I started going out to seek funds and also asking, Vuyo has a finance background and also operations. And so I asked him to help me out with that aspect, because being an entrepreneur, there's so many hats you have to put on, and you just can't be that good at everything or even have enough time to devote to a certain task to help you be more successful. So what happened, and with Bucks Built, the way it happened is we started our journey trying to raise funds. I believe in 2017, we were invited by Mark Kramer. I believe just 2017, or was it 2018? I forget. It was the end of the year. And there was something, Mark runs the Angel Venture Fair, and he was running an event he calls the Snake Pit, I believe. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's in Philly that he runs this. And so he said, hey, do you want to come and present? And so I happened to attend the Snake Pit and present. And I think we co-presented with Vuyo. And out of that came an advisor who helped us think through a certain aspect of investment and the strategy to bring in investment into the company. So the reason why I'm sharing the years is to show that it takes time to actually get to the cash, right? There's so much to learn, and it's not a linear path. It's probably more convoluted. And even the way I got to meet Mark was through this lady called Pamela Wheeler, and she heads up the business center in Philadelphia. And she sent me a note one time, and she helps companies within Philly. She works with certain companies that come to her organization and helps them grow as well, or connects them. So she's a really good connector. And so she connected me with the Angel Venture Fair. And then that connected us with this advisor who started helping us think through an investment strategy. This is something we had never done, because both we and I have corporate backgrounds, but we weren't working in mergers and acquisitions, and we weren't working with venture, things like that. So in 2020, was it 2020? I think it may have been 2020. I presented to the Mid-Atlantic Diamond Ventures, and there was an individual called Mark Mitchell. He's an investor, and he wrote to me and said, "Hey, Mombi, there is a group in Bucks County that you probably should come and present your business to. It's led by a guy called John Mercer. I'm going to introduce you to him. And the way they do it, it's F30. I'm sure you of course the group. And so they have people come together, entrepreneurs come together to help other entrepreneurs. And I know you're trying to grow. I know you're trying to raise money. That's why you've come to MADV, but this group might be helpful to you." So I started attending F30 and was really intrigued by just how passionate the people who join, the entrepreneurs who join, how passionate they are to help each other and to help others who come to them. And I really wanted to be a part of this group and continue being a part of this group, not only for me, but also to help other people that come in. And around that time, John reached out to me because I did a presentation, and he said, "Hey, we're running a pitch competition. Do you want to participate? If you do, just, submit this application." So that's how it all started. So John and Bucks Built got this whole investing ball rolling for me, because we participated in the pitch competition. We were one of the finalists and one of the winners of the inaugural Bucks Built fund. So we brought in $25,000 into the company, and that actually started sort of this, it started this. It's not a flywheel per se, because it's not like we had all these funds coming in and wanting to give us money, but it's got the ball rolling for us. So not long after that, around the March timeframe, we were able to start to present to Ben Franklin and technology partners, and also submit our application. And then Ben Franklin invested in us as well through their Technology Acceleration Fund. And we were working primarily with Mark Traybold. I believe he's no longer with Ben Franklin, but he was very helpful for us to work with in Ben Franklin. And we were, we had some really good support from leadership there as well. And then we had presented previously at Investor Circle. And so the investors there knew us, we were keeping up with them. And when Ben Franklin invested in us, then an investor stepped in. So that was the first series of investment that started rolling through in 2021. And since then, we've been able to bring in more into the fold. We've been able to bring in the JVS Philadelphia Fund for Women. That's from Judy von Seldneck, which is a nice group of women, very well accomplished, who are looking to support women-owned businesses. And then And then we have gotten follow-on investment from Bucks County, which has been an amazing relationship. And I know you have a question following that as well. And so we keep working on that, and also the Rainier Fund through Drexel. So it's really helped. Let me say Bucks County is the one that really started helping us get the ball rolling. And
it's tremendous.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so you, as you said, you kind of wear many hats in your role as, this kind of business startup space that you found yourself in. Taking off of the finance hat and putting back on your scientist hat, what are the items, what are the things that you needed to formulate your products and to really begin to build out the product pipeline, right? Hey, we have the resources now. What can we do? How can we make this company grow?
Right. And that's where, like at the very beginning, there's one person we were talking to the other day who said, you know what, I want to commend you guys on getting to this stage. We know you need funding. You need more and more funding. Every time you turn around, you need more money. And that's the case for every business. But I want to commend you on getting to this point of your business, and especially with the amount of testing you've done in the marketplace. It is really hard and it's very expensive, but you've gotten through, through to that. Now, in terms of getting, what do we need for the science? Because we are science-based, we are really focused on certain principles and really thinking through these products and what we're trying to deliver to the customer. We need equipment that helps us do certain experiments. For example, when we started off, we were looking at hair fibers through a high-powered electron microscope. That is not something that, let's say, I would necessarily want to invest in our business at this stage, but there are labs that can help you, get all these images that you need to in order to really look at what hair strands look like with product, without product. There are certain experiments like tensile strength that you want to look at, and so the equipment that helps you study hair, but also the equipment that helps you synthesize these materials and mix them and so on is something that one needs access to in order to do this work. And then, in terms of that, there's also the need for the scientific ecosystem. And so recently, with some of this funding that has been rolling in, we joined the PA Biotech Center of Bucks County. So we are now a member of that, and we are so excited to have some lab space there, and also to be tapping into the ecosystem of scientists that are in the area with the sort of ideas and conversations that one can have, or the connectivity. So even as we speak, I'm getting ready to reach out to one of our contacts there that we have recently met, and even who gave a lab tour. He's called Dr. Scott. I forget his last name, but I call him Dr. Scott. And he gave a lab tour to even my daughter, a nephew, and I call her, she's like a niece to me, but she's a good friend of my daughter. And so I remember one time he saw us around and he said, hey, if you want a lab tour, I can tour, have the kids tour the biotech lab. So it's a nice space where you can even expose young people who are in, the ecosystem to science and what it takes to do some of the amazing breakthrough science that's happening. We are looking at connectivity to labs that can really help us study hair fibers as well. And this conversation wouldn't even have started if we hadn't joined this particular biotech center. So very much need the equipment, the community, and then also the funding to acquire some of this, to have the lab space as well, and just to be able to stay involved, in the community.
So all those pieces put together, everything clicking, companies growing. What's the latest? Where are you at right now? What products are there? how's the company faring now that you're able to take these next steps incrementally?
Yeah, so one of the things that happens when you're dealing with consumer packaged goods is you have to really think about the distribution channel. So what we found ourselves really thinking through was we do have a presence online. We are building a presence on Amazon as well. But then a lot of people like shopping. They like going out, and especially after 2020 and 2021, people want to be out there. And we thought, you know what? And actually, as we were coming up, part of we tested retail a little bit just through some local vendor programming, some consignment, just really to start understanding what it takes to do this. And so we came back to the retail distribution channel, and we thought, you know what, let's give this a try. We were tapped into entrepreneurs as well, and just learned that, hey, there are some trade shows that we could attend that would help us get this product line in front of people. So what we did and what we've done is, based on customer feedback, based on where we were maybe in 2021, we thought, you know what, one of the things we've figured out is that in order for us to prevail, even in retail, we need to rebrand. In order for us to speak to, even millennials and the Gen Zs, we need to really think about modernizing our branding. And so, again, in a very convoluted way, stumbled into, this guy running a design firm. He's designed for major firms as well, Bill Goodwin, and started working with him on a brand redesign. And we were able to, through a lot of hard work, redesign the brand. And last year, that was 2022, we were able to launch the new brand at a major beauty trade show. It's the biggest one in North America, in Vegas, called Cosmoprof. And we wanted to, first of all, find out how buyers would respond to our brand, because we have two markets that we are going after. One is the actual people who would purchase our products, and we have their profile. And the second one is buyers, volume buyers. And so we started looking for those and trying to see, how do we connect with them? There was resounding positive response to our brand. And then through that trade show, and then a subsequent trade show, the Natural Products Expo East, I believe it was held in Philly. And then more recently, we had a trade show, it's a virtual trade show, where we talked to 45 retailers, distributors, and some outlets, media outlets, and had some very, very, very good conversations with a lot of interest coming out of those. So we are looking to see continued growth in the retail space through all these endeavors. And it takes time to close the volume, the volume sales. And more recently, as you're aware, we closed the TJX one, and continue to build that relationship, and then looking to close others, and just have our footprint in so many more places that we start becoming that recognizable brand.
Now, even with all this growth and all of the work, it's very clear, you've mentioned your husband, your daughter. It's very clear it's still a family endeavor. One way or the other, everyone's got a hand in the operation. Can you just talk about why that is important, how that has kind of grown and worked within in the family dynamic?
Right. So, it's been what's really great in terms of the family dynamic is sometimes if you're able to work with your spouse, let's say, there's very high trust. You trust each other's intentions, and we know we have very different talents, but we also fundamentally have very similar values. And so that really helps us as a family owned brand trying to really grow a scalable business together. So that helps. Very honest debate and respectful debate as well. I think sometimes what happens when people are married is you might take each other for granted and not be very nice about, how you might say things and not very professional, but we tend to, be respectful, but also have debate about how are we going to move this forward? Does this make sense what we are trying to do? Let's look at the cash flow. What is this? What does this all mean? So what's next for us is, just continuing to grow Naturaz. What's really interesting is even as some of these opportunities are opening up, you're thinking, oh my gosh, we have products in Marshalls and TJ Maxx and Winners in the US and Canada. What does this mean as we grow? You're thinking about the capital that will be needed to grow into that account. These are 2,500 stores that are possible to grow into, right? And so it's exciting and then a little scary at the same time, because there's so much to think about when all these doors start opening. It's really for the family. You may have seen a picture of me and my daughter at a shelf at the TJX, right? And so we waited for her to come from school when we found out where the products were. And we didn't tell her exactly where we were going because we wanted her to see something that she knows we've been laboring over for a long time. And even complaints, right? To see this thing come to life that mom and dad, sometimes I get really mad at them because we're taking a walk and then they start talking business. And then I tell them, that is not the purpose of this walk. You all need to be focused on what we are doing right now and not start talking. So we've made her really mad at us sometimes. And so we, she checks us. But just to see her walk up to the shelf and have that, realization that, oh my gosh, this actually can happen. You can only imagine the impression it has on a child, right? And it's gotten to the point that just out of the blue, she's very good at drawing, which I thought she would maybe take on musical instruments and stuff, right? Things that I was more familiar with. But I like drawing, but I'm not as good as she is. She's really good and she spends a lot of time. And so what she decided to do is she got some inspiration through, she watches a lot of artists doing work. And so she innovated some pins and she asked me and my husband to be her investors and invest in manufacturing the pins and then, kind of guide her through how does she start selling them and some of the other ideas she has. And one morning, in our group chat, she writes and she says, hey, the products, here's a picture of the pins in production, like that language, right? So she's picked it all up because she hears us talk about these things. And there's a picture of the manufacturer showing her, these are the pins, here are the 2 pins, and here are all the others. And we are getting ready to apply paint on them. And we were really impressed by that. Like, she's actually picking all this up and we're not forcing it down her throat. We don't make her feel like there's a huge expectation that you must take over should this take off. It's more, what do you really want to do? And so the other day I was chatting with her and I said to her, she was talking about some of the things she wants to do. And one of the things she wants to pursue is being an entrepreneur. So I said to her, do you really want to be an entrepreneur? Do you see what we go through? And she says, yeah, Mom, I would like to be an entrepreneur. You know why? Because I can create something that can make a difference for myself and for people. And of course, I knew what she would tell me, but I said, like, okay, so what's giving you this idea? She says, look at you. You've created this hair care product and it helps you, it helps me, and it helps people. And I would love to be that, to do that. And I thought, okay, so she's talking about not only being an innovator, not only being a consumer, but being an innovator, and also trying to make a difference or to fill a gap that she thinks is there in the world. So she wants to create some things at this time in her youth that people can use to enjoy themselves, some pins, stickers, and I don't know what else she has in mind. But we'll try our best to support her. So that's, to me, that is what Naturaz is doing, not only in terms of impacting the community by offering efficacious products that work, but also the children in our lives being exposed not only to entrepreneurship, my nephew, their friends, getting a chance to be in a lab environment. Vuyo and I also love mentoring younger people and students and sharing our experiences and encouraging them, don't waste time. There's just so much for you to pursue and while enjoying life at the same time. So
yeah, I mean, that was going to be actually my next question, right? Was through your story, you've talked about the importance of those connections and the advice that you've gotten and kind of the hands and guiding directions at various points as you've done the work. And as someone who's gone through that process, now you're seeing members of your family kind of begin to kick the tires on that. What kind of is your advice for folks that are out there that may have that entrepreneurial mindset, right, or have an idea that they think they can build on? Whether it's advice that you wish you had gotten at the beginning or some sort of clarity you can provide, what would you say to folks who are hearing your story and going, that kind of connects with me?
Yeah, you know what? One of the first things I would say, I wish maybe that I had a strong mentor when I first thought about this problem that I was trying to solve. Somebody who, because I felt that I need to jump into corporate and get that experience, which I'm telling you was invaluable. So that was not a bad decision. It's just that it takes longer for you to get there, because if you're fully committed to your job, right, you're not going to take time away from your job to pursue something else. You're going to give it your all. And that's just the way I am. And so these other things get delayed. Or you might think that you don't have everything it takes to become successful. I need to learn this over here. But with the right mentors, and even if you have to do something on the side, or whatever you want, if you have something that can solve a problem in the world, or that there's such a major pain and no one else is doing it, the way maybe what your solution could do it, I really encourage people, don't worry about your age. If you are able to surround yourself with the right mentors, you can still go out there and create something, or whatever legacy you're trying to create, that it's possible. You have to stay open. You have to stay open to advice. And if you have to jump back into work or do something like that, don't say that you have to do it for 10 years or for 20 years. And then at that point, you'll have all the experience to be a CEO or to be an innovator or to be a co-founder. You can do it today if you have something that you really think will help the world. So that's one. The other things I would tell folks is, not only should you look for mentors, do your research, really figure out whether this is something you should get into, but also have the humility that if it's not working out and it's breaking your marriage or it's causing you to fight with everyone because you're so stressed out, you're not sleeping at night, you're getting unhealthy, maybe you can step back from it too. So I don't believe in being so gung-ho about something I want to do that's not healthy for my life or that's causing such a major impact. I know there are stories of entrepreneurs. To be an entrepreneur, I think you have to be a little bit crazy in a way, because there are certain sacrifices that don't make sense. When I left my job, I was, of course, on a trajectory to still doing very well in the corporate environment. And I think there's always this question of, is she really doing the right thing? Why would she do that? Like, this is not easy to do what she's trying to do. But I would say if you can save your money, make sure you save your money, make sure you're very realistic about if things are really not working out on many levels, you should be able to step away. Business, work, any of these things should not be more important than your health, your mental health, your well-being, the well-being of people around you. But keep entrepreneurs like you around you, especially those who are a little further ahead, not like those who are so far that they forgot what the journey was like, but keep that ecosystem around you. We have a small ecosystem of folks that we talk to. It can be a very lonely journey because results don't always happen right away, and there are many pitfalls, and there are, as much as there are highs, there are lows, and the lows can be fairly devastating. And it's important to keep people around you that help you feel sane, where they share something and they're like, oh my gosh, like I totally identify. Or they say, you know what, I feel so lonely in this journey. And you say, I know what you mean. It is lonely. Not everyone, and sometimes family doesn't even understand just the example I gave you, because they might be like, why are you putting yourself through this? And then the other thing is networking has been key. So if you are a founder or co-founder, make sure that you network. Networking is so important for growing your business. And just know that every job in your business is a full-time job plus, most likely. So you're wearing many hats, you're stretched thin, but it's very important to give yourself time to rest and to stay healthy. It's critical. And I also found this, Aaron, there's a time that I was pushing myself a lot. And I was trying hard, and I was working hard, and I was working almost every single day of the week. And when I realized that it wasn't healthy for me, and I told myself, you need to stop, you need to, just stay focused. If you're gonna take time out, take real time out, like sit down, watch a show, like don't think about this at all, right? I find that when I come back to it, I have new ideas, I'm energized, things even work out better, and so on. So that's the sort of advice I'd give people. And I have so much more, but hopefully that helps.
No, all great advice and broadly applicable, right? I mean, that's good advice for anyone, anywhere. So I appreciate you walking us through that. But before we wrap up, we've covered so much. It's been so interesting to hear the journey. What though is next? What's the vision for Naturaz into the future for you and your family?
Right. So one of the things that I would like to do, and maybe before I go into the vision, I just want to wrap up by commending Penn Community Bank for supporting organizations like Bucks Built, because they're making a real impact in the community. And I also want to mention Thomas Lonergan, TJ from Bucks IDA, working, and his team and the team that he works with, working in conjunction with Bucks Build. They are really having an impact on businesses. So by you being involved with them, it's had an impact on us and on our growth. And I hope there's so much more to come that we can look back and talk through. And in terms of the vision for Naturaz, so we are a company that lies at the intersection of health and beauty. So we want to offer a product line that really works well for textured women across all ethnicities, textured hair women across all ethnicities. But we also want to make sure that what we offer these women and their families is healthy for them. So our vision is to continue to lie at the intersection of health and beauty in our science, in the product offering, and in everything that we do to serve the community. And the other thing is, I'd like Naturaz to continue. Just one of the things that's baked in to our company is the spirit of mentoring, the spirit of being helpful, especially mentoring younger people, and really upholding the role of academics and knowledge to help us lead healthier lives, or to help us lead, better lives. So just to continue in that spirit. And then the other vision is, as we grow, we want to be a company that's a fun place for people to work, and a place that people feel like their lives are valued, and not only are they using great products, not only from Naturaz, but others that they look for in the general marketplace, but also that their voices are heard, and that they have fun at Naturaz. So health, beauty, and community are our biggest ones that we'll continue building on.
This was such a wonderful conversation. Just one more time, I know you had mentioned it in our discussion, but where can folks go to learn more, to view your products, to learn more about the business, and maybe make a purchase?
Yes, so you can definitely visit naturaz.com, naturaz.com, and you'll learn more about us. You follow us on our social media. We are constantly communicating there. And also, if you like shopping from Amazon, check out Amazon as well. And then go hit up TJ Maxx, Marshalls, Winners. If you don't find our products, just ask for them so that they know you know that you want to purchase the product. And then look out for us at other stores. We are coming to many stores near you.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Mutual Growth, a podcast by Penn Community Bank. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a rating. And as always, keep up with the latest from Penn Community Bank by following us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. For more information about this podcast, links to past episodes, or to learn more about Community First Banking, just visit penncommunitybank.com/podcast.
Mutual Growth is the official podcast of Penn Community Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. It is produced for the benefit of current and prospective customers and partner organizations. This program is provided solely for educational and entertainment purposes. The information contained herein is based on sources believed to be reliable, but is not represented to be complete, and its accuracy is not guaranteed. The opinions, views, and estimates expressed are those of the presenters at the date of production, are subject to change without notice. Please email marketing@penncommunitybank.com regarding booking or repurposing any part of this podcast.